I'm Jim from Concord, California, a small city east of San Francisco. I'm a retired Air Force colonel with 27 years of service, which included tours in Turkey, South Vietnam, Thailand, Naples, Italy, with my final tour was at Headquarters Pacific Air Force at Hickam Air Force Base, Honolulu, Hawaii. My memories of World War II include many stories from my Uncle Emil, one of my mother's older brothers. He had served in the Navy since 1927 or 28, and we heard often of his operations in the Atlantic and in the Caribbean, the many times he transited the Panama Canal, and the ritual that they underwent when sailors crossed the international date line and the equator. In World War II, Uncle Emil served as a chief motor mechanic aboard the USS Skipjack and the USS Flying Fish, submarines that were ported in Pearl Harbor and in Brisbane, Australia. He wrote often to my mother, and we heard about his participation in the Battle of Midway, and subsequently when his submarine was run aground on an atoll in the Pacific and was subject to depth charging. Fortunately, he survived and was later on the submarine that entered Tokyo Bay before the end of the war. After the war, Uncle Emil returned to Mare Island in Vallejo, California, near our home. He was responsible for inspecting the submarines that were being considered for decommissioning and mothballing. He invited me on one of the inspection trips that went out into the Pacific. And I remember how excited I was when the captain of the U.S.S. Cabazon, the ship that I was going to travel on, and welcomed me by saying I was at 9 years old, was one of the youngest and first civilians to participate in this operation. I remember how excited again I was as we headed west past the Alcatraz, past Angel Island, under the Golden Gate Bridge, heading for the Farallon Islands. Between the Golden Gate Bridge and the Farallon Islands, they tested all the gun mounts and the above-board radars. As the ship submerged, they tested the sonar and the other pressure-mounted equipment. I remember eating lunch at 100 feet below the surface. When we resurfaced and we headed west, I remember the sunset at our back illuminated San Francisco and the Golden Gate Bridge, and that left an impression on me, my trip with my uncle, and a memory that I'll never forget.